So first of all, let me welcome everyone this morning. If you don't know me personally, if we haven't met yet, my name is Angela, and I'm a specialist here with Region 1 ESC Gear Up. I'm super excited to welcome everyone this morning to our Cybermentoring experience. The topic today is writing your college admissions essays. Hopefully at this point, everyone has started at least one essay and you know what you have before you. Janine Robinson, our expert on college admissions essays, is with us this morning. She's going to give us a lot of tips on how to continue that momentum and continue with your essay to make it as compelling and competitive as possible. This is an interactive session, so as Janine starts the presentation, if you have any questions, you're invited to pose those questions in two ways. You can either approach your device that you're using in your classroom, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, and speak as close to the microphone as possible, and we can hear your question. Or if you would prefer, at the bottom of the screen, there's a little chat button. If you would prefer to type out your question, we'll kind of keep an eye on that. And if we see any questions typed in, we'll be glad to answer those. So students, this is all for you. Once again, you're working on your applications, you're working on your essays. You probably have something that you've written and you know where you're stuck or what you're looking at that you think, wow, this could be better. I'm not quite sure how to approach that. Janine's got great ideas, but feel free to jump in and ask specific questions. I promise you someone else in the group wants to hear that question too. With that said, Janine, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. Thanks for showing up. You know, one thing I was thinking, we did one of these just an hour ago or half hour ago that I didn't mention to those students, and it's good to hear that you guys are working on your personal statement essay, you know, that you can use for the Common App. That's that essay that you write that showcases something about yourself, right? For the Common App, it needs to be somewhere around 600, no more than 650 words. So it's a meaty essay. The beauty of that essay is that there's a really good chance that you can use that Common App essay for one of your applied Texas essays. I don't know if your teachers talk to you about that idea of recycling essays. Those are two separate applications. The Common Application, which mostly private schools use, whether it's the Ivy League, Harvard, all those, or smaller private schools like Rice, that type of school. And then there's a whole separate application, which sounds like you're already on the ball, called Apply Texas. And that is the application or the website that you use if you're applying to any public school in Texas, right? And as you know, the Common Application has 5 prompts. You pick one that you write your essay about. And then Apply Texas has 3 prompts: topic A, topic B, topic C. And it's up to you to figure out what Texas school you're targeting. Go to that website, look at the admissions page, and it'll tell you which of those prompts, which of those essays you need to do. My understanding is, for the most part, you usually have to do A and B. Sometimes C is optional. But the beauty is that your Common App essay, if it's an essay about you, see if you can use that. If that addresses topic A or topic B or even topic C. Topic C is a little more unusual. As you know, it's the one that's kind of creative, out of the box. You know, you have a ticket in your hand. Where are you going to go? Tell us what happened. That might not be as easy of a match. But topic A, to write about your environment, you know, your background. If your Common App essay is anything about something involving your family or your community or your culture, that Common App, you can use that for topic A. So check that off the list. Or you can look, if your Common App essay is about your identity somehow, or if it's about an interest that you have or a talent, you can use that Common App for topic B. So just keep that in mind. So I just want to back up. you know, I've been working with students now on these essays for like 8 or 9 years. And I had the privilege of working with Gear Up students starting over a year ago. And I got to come down to Texas 4 times. I don't know if any of you were in my workshops. Great, they were wonderful. But the beauty is that the Gear Up has now made a lot of my ideas and available to you through the Gear Up website. I put together, you know, my background is journalism. I was a newspaper reporter, magazine editor about 9 years ago. I started by helping my own daughter with her college essay. And then I started putting together all these ideas on how these essays are different from your typical academic essay, and how they're personal essays, and trying to think about how do students write about themselves. It's a difficult task. It's a different type of an essay. So I write a blog about this. I've published a couple writing guides, and then I put together this online boot camp. And you're so lucky that Gear Up bought this for you to use. I have students where I live here in California who would love if our school had something like this available. You basically just go to the Gear Up website. Here, let me show it to you here. And there's a link. You log on with whatever your ID is, and then I'm trying to screen share it here. And then there is a password, which is Gear Up. If it asks you for the password for Janine Robinson's essay boot camp, the password is Gear Up, all capital letters, GEARUP, all one word, and then this will pop up. Can you see it, Angela?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
And just really quickly, students, once again, I can see the LaSada group. Put your hand up in the air if you know how to access your myregion1.org account. Okay, I'm looking at the hands. Okay, so here's what I want you to do, students. I'm going to just say this really quickly. You may want to write this down. Everything that Janine's getting ready to show you, you can access this at any time by going to myregion1.org. Okay, once again, it's myregion1.org. Ask your Gear Up facilitator for your Gear Up ID number. The way you log in, your username is GU and your 9-digit Gear Up ID number. Your password is your 9-digit Gear Up ID number. Once again, if that was too fast, if I said it too quickly, talk to your Gear Up facilitator. They can help you get logged into myregion1.org. You have a personal account there with a lot of information about college. I mean, we're talking a ton of information. Okay, and in fact, Janine's typing it in right now, myregion1.org. And Janine, here's what you can do. I'm going to show them how it would look. If you'll type in, and students, you'll type in to access, you type in the letters GU and your Gear Up ID number. But okay, Janine, what I want you to do is type in just the word demo where it says username. Okay. Then for password, type in demo. I've made a sample account. Now, students, I don't want you all, it didn't work. Snap. Okay. Well, it should have. DEMO. Try it again. Okay. Well, it's not cooperating with me right now. Okay. Anyway, students, when you log in, oh, there we go. Okay, super. So students, once again, you have an account that looks just like this, and there's a lot of things here to help you. For example, if you'll click on the profile tab and fill it in, there's a place where you can click on a resume builder and it will create a resume for you. If you click on the discovery tab, you can do a career interest inventory, and it'll recommend what you should be when you grow up and what you should major in if you're still not sure. But the way you get to the essay course is you scroll down to where it says, we're almost there, scroll down, look under school announcements, and it says access Janine Robinson's essay boot camp here. So students, everything Janine's getting ready to show you, you have complete free access to this. And you would click that link, and the password is Gear Up. And it didn't ask Janine for one because we've accessed it many times, but if you're prompted for a password, the password is Gear Up. If you have any questions, students, about how to access this, please talk to your Gear Up facilitator, because there's a lot here to help you with your college process. Okay.
It's an amazing resource,
Absolutely.
Right. So the idea is I'm going to be talking about this boot camp and how you can use it. This boot camp is set up to help you write exactly what a lot of you are working on, that common application, the Common App essay, which is a personal statement essay. It's an essay that's you're supposed to find some topic that you can write about that shows colleges something about you that helps you stand out from the competition. And helps them decide, yes, you are a fit, we want you at our school. And that's what this boot camp is all about. I'm also going to talk about the 3 essay requirements for Apply Texas. So I just want to go through this really quickly so you see you can go to this anytime. You can either take the little course, which if you did it all at once would take about an hour, but you can also go back to different parts of it depending on where you're at with your essays. So if you wanted to start at the beginning, you just go to the Home tab, and each of these pages has a little bit of sort of instructional content, and then it will prompt you, go to the next one. So you go to the introduction, talks a little bit of background about the nature of a good essay, and then they have these little videos. They're super short, 5 minutes or less, and you watch it, and it gives you really quickly what makes a great essay? What kind of essay do you need to write? Watch that. Go to the next one. And then it steps you through the process, the brainstorming process. Find your defining quality. When you write about yourself, you don't want to just try to cram all the cool stuff about yourself in an essay. It'll be too general and boring. Instead, it needs a focus. And how do you focus it? Well, pick one part about yourself to write about. Don't write about how you do all this cool stuff and how you've been an Eagle Scout and how you play in the band. No, pick one quality about yourself and write the essay about that. Think about your defining qualities. Are you creative? Are you a leader? Are you compassionate? What's a quality that really sort of helps sum you up, or one of several qualities? So this helps you find those. Little video, 3 minutes long, will help you brainstorm, get your little list of what qualities define you or describe you. Then you go to step 2. Talks about, now that you've found that you want to write about how you're creative, now it will help you to find a time or a moment or something that happened that you can use to start your essay to share that shows how you're creative. So you're not just going to write your essay. I love to do creative things. I like to build things with my hands, and I'm really arty. No, let's think of a time that you actually did something creative, or a time that you used your creativity to deal with something. So this video, watch that video, talks all about how everybody has these little moments, these little experiences, little interactions, little mini stories in your past that you can use, and you use them, you start your essays with these because they're little interesting moments and they serve as the grabber or the hook for your essay. So then go to step 3. So this just keeps walking you through. What is a great topic for a college essay? You've probably heard that there are some topics that are red flagged, meaning you might want to steer clear of them because they tend to be overdone. It's not that, that you went on that mission trip wasn't a fabulous experience. The deal is many students write about that topic. So it's not that you can't write a good essay about it, but if you're writing about a topic that tends to be overdone or written about a lot, you're going to have to find something pretty unusual that happened. So it's, the admissions officer doesn't go, oh, another story about a kid that went to Guatemala and helped build a church. Not that that's a marvelous experience, but so many students tend to write about some of those. Sports as topics is another red flag one. Writing about tutoring or working with special needs kids. Again, these are all great experiences, but you might want to dig deeper. to find a different topic that you can write about. This little video will give you ideas. Like, did you have a summer job? You know, even if it was just flipping pancakes, you know, that can be a way better topic than writing about how you went on a mission trip, or how you played basketball and got hurt. You know, one of the most overdone topics is how students hurt their ACL. Isn't that random? Mm-hmm. So watch that video, and it keeps stepping you through the process. It talks about, there's a sample outline. So you have a good idea. Now, how do you structure it? There's this video will help you to put together a writing plan on the best way to start with that little moment, and then go into the background, explaining the background of what led up to it, and then talk about more what happened and how you dealt with whatever the issue was that you started with, and then you go into what you learned. So it goes all the way. There's 10 steps, and maybe you already have a great idea, right? And you just want to know, how do you write that little moment, real life moment? How do you do that? You can go back here, and there's videos on specific, you know, things that you need to learn how to do, right? The anecdote. There's one here. Maybe you have your essay, but you don't have a conclusion yet. Step 9, how to write a conclusion. Maybe your essay, you have a little story, something happened, and you've given some background, but you don't know what else to write about it. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the most important stuff. You shared a little story and you backgrounded it. Now is the juicy part. Now you need to talk about how you felt about it, mm-hmm. And what you learned from that experience. What did you learn? Did you change somehow? Did something good come out of it? How did you think about it? That's a really important part. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to flesh out an essay more, but there's a whole, the best video or step is step 7, how to explain meaning. If you're stumped, if you have a good little story, but you don't know how to make it more meaningful, read the video, watch the video on how to explain meaning, step 7. I also want to show you that this boot camp, there's all these handouts. There's a couple worksheets to help you brainstorm. There's sample essays, which I think are the best way to not just learn the style of these personal essays, how they're not like a lot of the academic essays that you maybe have written so far in your English class. You don't use words like nevertheless or try to use those big SAT words. These are more casual in nature. You write a little more like you talk. And to get a feel of that flavor or that tone, there's sample essays here. I think there's like 5 under this tab. Mm-hmm. When you read them, that's the best way to learn, is see how other students did it. And when you read some of these, you'll also get ideas for yourself. You know, oh, that student wrote about volunteering at a hospital. You know, that student, this is a really heavy one about a student who lost her dad. This one was about a kid that raced crew. And even though it's about sports, he was able to dig a little deeper and find something unusual to say. So he pulled it off, writing about an overdone topic like sports. See how he did it. This student just wrote about how he's really big guy, 6'7", 300 pounds. Wrote his whole essay about that. And you can see how he wrote about a simple thing like that in his essay, and how he found meaning. He just didn't say, I'm a big guy, and it's a problem sometimes. He also reflected on how that shaped him and what he learned about life and other people. This guy just wrote about how he liked to collect junk. Mm-hmm. That was it. That's his topic. He got into one of the best universities in the nation. So trust those little topic ideas, those little everyday things. Think about yourself. Is there something that you're sort of obsessed with? You know, do you have a little thing that you like to collect? Could make a great essay. And look, he wrote about how he liked to collect trash, how he found this free trampoline and dragged it home. That's his little story But then he went on in the essay to talk about what that showed about him, how he thought about it. He talked about, yeah, I like junk, but what does that mean about me? Why do I like junk? And it got into more like, it's also the idea of what does that junk represent? It's things from the past, what he values. It shows what he cares about. And that's how you take a simple everyday thing like collecting junk and turn it into something more meaningful that shows how you think and what you value and care about. So you have access to all these sample essays under the handouts here. There's also, my favorite is a sample outline. Say you have an idea, maybe I want to write about how I, made pancakes at IHOP one summer. I don't know if do you have IHOP down there?
Yes.
Okay, or Whataburger, right? At Whataburger.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Here's a sample outline, and it's just, you don't have to stick to this. It just gives you an idea. Start with your little story, the thing that happened. I really push for the idea of looking for problems. If you're looking for something that happened to you that was interesting, they're only interesting if it had a problem. Just how it is. Try to think of something interesting. It had a problem. Problems come in all different shapes. It does not have to be, a hurricane or, a horrible car accident. They're little problems. It can be, I bite my fingernails, a little bad habit. It can be a mistake that you made. It can be a little setback. It can be a challenge or an obstacle. Maybe you had a goal, but something happened that tried to stop you from achieving that. That's a problem. So I always say, you're looking for an idea for your essay and you want to find a time or something that happened. Think about a problem. So here you start by describing whatever happened. You kind of recreate that little moment in time, that little interaction or little experience. Write a paragraph about that. Number 2, now you need to go back and it kind of explain the context, the background, kind of what led up to that in a paragraph. Number 3, so something happened. Say you were making pancakes and you, let's see, what could go wrong when you're making pancakes? You didn't make enough batter, so you ran out of pancakes, and it's the morning rush during this job where you're a cook. That's a problem. So you set up and you describe that moment, I'm flipping pancakes, the orders are coming in, all of a sudden I go to scoop it and we're out. That's all you have to do. Show us the little moment of that problem hitting. Give the backstory. It was my second day on the job. I was happy to have a job because I needed to help, pay my family, pay some expenses. 3, how'd you deal with that? Share the steps that you took to deal with that problem. You don't have to have solved it, just share what steps and how you felt. I was about to panic. I almost thought I should just walk out the door. I was so freaked out. Share how you felt. And then what did you do about it? Then I tried to calm myself down. Did you run to the convenience store next door and get a mix? Or did you, quickly come up with some way to make something else to cook? I found some cornmeal and I put together, whatever you did to kind of deal with it. What does that show? When you share a problem and how you deal with it, it shows something about how you are. Were you scrappy? Were you innovative? Were you creative? Were you a leader? So that's what's really cool about a problem. If you have a problem, you show how you dealt with it, you're going to reveal how you are in the world. And that's what you want to write about in these essays. That's what they're all about, showing these colleges something about how you are. Number 4, now you look back, you step away from whatever happened and how you dealt with it. And you're like, okay, that happened, I dealt with it. What did I learn in the process? What did I learn about myself? It's where you reflect, and you say, looking back, I realize that I'm the type of kid who really is good in a crunch, in a pinch. I realize now that when I'm under the gun, yes, I freak out for a minute, but then I get a plan. And you share what you learn, how you see yourself. What did you learn about others? I learned that other people sometimes freak out too, or I learned that other people actually step in and help if you ask them, So what did you learn about others? And then what did you learn about just how the world is? I learned in the world, not everything goes how you think it's going to go. Mm-hmm. Share that. Include those ideas. When you're reflecting and adding that meaning and more depth, there's no right or wrong. You're not getting graded. The idea is that you're just sharing how you think, how you kick around ideas. There's no right or wrong. You can even throw in a question. You can even say, did I do the right thing? Or did I learn something? You can even include a question. And then the conclusion, just some ideas on how to give the essay a little continuity. You kind of can link back to that moment that you started with. So if you started with your flipping pancakes, making pancakes, you ran out of batter. You could give us a status update, I'm still working at the restaurant, but now the first thing I always check is that I have enough eggs and flour. And then go on to, what I learned from that day about myself, and then talk about how you envision yourself using what you learned in your future. Boom. You have a rough draft. If you write a paragraph about each of these, it doesn't have to be perfect. You will have a rough draft. And then you go back and you read it. And there's a whole video on how to edit your essay. And you edit your essay after you have a rough draft pounded out. Your rough draft is not supposed to be perfect. That's the writing process. So in the handouts, depending where you're at, maybe you've already tried to write something and you feel like it's getting away from you. Look at this, take this sample outline and plug in your ideas to that, and I bet it will have a better focus and a better flow. Say you're having trouble writing that little moment. They're called anecdotes. Here's some sample anecdotes to see how other students have written them. There's also a little worksheet to help you collect the details to put together your anecdote. So anyway, there's a lot here. This idea of problems, if you're still going, I don't get it, why would a problem help me write my essay? There's actually a handout here that talks about all the different shapes and forms problems come in to help you brainstorm ideas. A flaw, a phobia, maybe I'm scared of elevators, could be a good topic. How would you write about that? Well, talk about a time that maybe you freaked out in an elevator, and then you give the background why you developed that phobia. Maybe you don't even know. You can say that. I'm not sure when I developed this fear. And then how do you deal with it? Well, at first I just avoided any building that was over 2 stories high or 3 stories. And then maybe you tried to find some way to test yourself to get back in one. Who knows? Maybe you just always take the stairs no matter what. So that's the little problem. Talk about how you dealt with it. And then looking back, what did you learn about yourself and how you dealt with that fear? And a lot of times then you can also, this is another little tip to flesh out an essay, is say, whatever I learned, how are there other places in my life where I've used that technique or strategy? So maybe now in my life, I have this fear of elevators, so I always take the stairs. It's not the easy way, but it's how I deal with things. So maybe look in other parts of your life. Do you use that same approach, maybe in any of your classes? Do you use that same approach with any issues in your family? I don't approach problems head on, but I find an alternative way that works for me. Yeah, so you can give some other examples. Maybe in chess club, maybe how you play chess, maybe you do the same thing. Chances are the way you deal with one problem will extend into other ways because it's your style of dealing and being in the world. So anyway, and here's some other ideas if you're brainstorming topic ideas. Look at your activities, your interests, your hobbies. Summer jobs, I think, are the best. Mm-hmm. The more mundane, the better. I spent a year mowing lawns could be an excellent essay, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. These topics, it's counterintuitive. It's oftentimes not what you would think, that the most everyday topics make the best essays. Summer camp trips, times with friends. Just going out to, get frozen yogurt could be a good essay. How do you make that a good essay? How do you find an interesting time or moment or anecdote? Think about a time something went wrong. Maybe we snuck out to get yogurt and we got a flat tire. Interesting, right? I'd want to read more. That's why if you think of a little problem and start with that moment at the beginning, it reaches out and grabs your reader like nothing else. We like problems. It's not because we're negative. It's just because something happened and we want to know what happens next. So that's why problems are your friend. You can think of clubs that you're in. Again, if you're writing about a club, don't just write about how you like that club and you think you're learning a lot and you like the people in it. That's all good stuff, but it's not that interesting to read about. Think of times something went wrong in that club. Maybe you're the president of that club and you forgot to go to the main meeting. You overslept. Good problem. How'd you deal with it? What'd you learn from it? How'd you feel? Did any good come of it? So anytime you include a problem, make sure you're going to quickly turn around and find the good that came out of it. And the good from problems is that you learn stuff. Your bedroom, you're like, I don't have anything interesting. I don't have any of those hobbies. Look on your wall. Do you have any posters? What do you have on your bookshelf? Simple little things can make great. Maybe you like to crochet dogs. Maybe you like to make little animal dogs. Great, it could be a great topic. Okay, so anyway, I just want to show you that this is all here for you to go back to, whether you're brainstorming a good topic or whether you have a topic and you want to make sure it's interesting, find a time, or flesh out that more meaning, the depths. So I want to shift to the apply Texas prompts. Can you raise your hands? Are any of you working on those now? Anybody raise your hand? Are you working on the apply Texas too? Okay.
Okay, great.
Let's just go over the prompts really quickly. This approach of think about a time or a problem and then go into what you learned can work for all three of these as well. Work beautifully. And it's not like the readers are going to go, oh, they're using that problem thing again. No, it doesn't show. This is just how you write personal essays. So apply Texas. There's 3 prompts. Prompt A, what was the environment in which you were raised? Describe your family, home, neighborhood, or community, and explain how it has shaped you as a person. There's 2 questions here that you need to address. You don't answer them in your essay, but you need to address it. First, you have to describe one of these. You don't write about your family and your neighborhood and community. You pick one. You want it to have a focus. Even though they're all interesting, pick one. I also think you can add the word culture to this. I think that could be a big part of your environment and can make awesome essays. Instead of the word environment, if that kind of throws you, just think of background. What's your background? Where do you come from? And so the second part, say you pick your family, you're going to write about your family. You need to say how it shaped you. What's that mean, shaped you? Think about a core value, and that'll give it a focus. What has it taught you? Has it taught you integrity? Has it taught you to be compassionate? If you can think of one kind of core value, that'll give, again, this essay more focus, instead of saying all the things that you learned from your family. Then you pick one, and then you can have more depth about that. So say you want to write about your culture. How do you write about it? You just describe it. Where I'm from, we have these traditions, and we cook these interesting foods. That's too general. If you write about your culture, think of one piece of it. And also apply that approach, a problem. Say you want to write about the cool food from your culture. Focus it more. Pick one dish. And then try to think of a time, something that happened related to that. Think of a time something happened. How do you think of a time something happened? You look for a problem. If you have a problem, something happened. So say you want to talk about how your grandmother taught you how to make her favorite tamales. Secret recipe. Could be a really cool to sort of showcase your culture and how it shaped you. It's not that the making the tamales itself shaped you. You're just picking one piece of that culture or that experience that you can then write about and say, larger, more about what you learned. It's not just about, I learned to make tamales. A lot of it was, what do those represent? It represents a culture, and then you can talk about that, what you've learned from that, how it shaped you, what it's taught you. So if you want to write about that, the tamales, instead of saying, I grew up, my grandmother, taught me her secret recipe, talk about a time there was a problem, something went wrong. Just a little silly thing. The time, instead of putting, chicken in, she put something else in there. And then you're set to say how you dealt with that. And I bet how you would deal with a problem, I bet my chances are your grandmother had some kind of interesting way that she helped deal with it. Mm-hmm. When there's problems, you're always sort of surprised just how innovative or imaginative or creative or resourceful people can be. Great stories. And it can just be the littlest thing. So here's topic A. Pick one of these that you want to write about. Think about some problem that happened. You can go back to that sample outline. Start by telling a little story of what happened. It's short. These essays are not about you writing about that whole story about what happened with the making tamales. Your whole essay is not one story. Instead, you take a little moment, a mini story. It's like one paragraph to start your essay. The rest of the essay is going to explain what that experience meant to you. And that's the most important part. You're just using this little moment to show the reader what happened. And then you get to talk about how you dealt with it and what you learned and why that matters. So find something that happened, and to show how it shaped you, go into how you dealt with the problem, and then step back and say, now that I look back on the time that happened, I realize I learned this and this. I learned I'm this way. Or even though it was a problem, I learned that something good came out of it, and share what the good thing was. It doesn't have to all be bad. Maybe the tamales tasted terrible, but maybe you learned something pretty sweet about your grandmother or about yourself or somebody else. Here's a little sample outline that it might help you. Share the moment, what happened, go back, just describe what led up to that moment, a little backstory, and then include how you felt. That's how you make your essay nice and personal. If in every essay you use the word I felt, you will make sure to inject something personal. Number 3, share what you learned from handling the problem. You could pick a core quality. I learned that I'm resourceful. I learned that I'm innovative. I learned that I'm quick thinking, quick on my feet. Find one thing that you learned about yourself. And why is that a good thing? Share that. There's no right or wrong when you reflect on what you learned. It's just sharing how your opinions, your ideas. And you don't even have to be certain. You can even say stuff like, I'm not even sure why I felt that way, but maybe it's because of this and this. They just want to hear your voice and what you think and what you care about. And then the conclusion, same thing, kind of link back to the beginning and talk about how you intend to use whatever you learn toward your future goals. There's also a sample essay here about a background. It's a really good one, and it uses all the same features where it starts with a real life moment. It's about a girl. I don't know if she had Asian background, and she wrote about her culture. She didn't write about it explaining about how she was from China or anything like that. She talked about the time she was at a Chinese restaurant. She started with the time, and she couldn't use chopsticks, and she was trying to get a meatball or something, and it flew off the table. That's what she started with. And is there a problem there? Yes. She, couldn't use chopsticks, and she made a mess, and she embarrassed her father. And so her whole essay was about, how can I be from China or wherever she was from and not know chopsticks? And then she used that little moment then to go into what it's like to have this dual culture. And then she talked about what she learned in dealing with that about herself. It's called Banana Girl. I forget why it's called Banana Girl. I think this is the one it's talking about. Yeah. Oh, it called her, my friends. So she starts, about this moment, the anecdote, right? A little moment. She doesn't lead up to it. She starts right when it happened, about how she, had the chopsticks and it rolled off the table, and how her dad said something like, a woman next to him joked, her dad said, he muttered with a sigh, can't even use chopsticks. And see how they recreated that little moment? They even put a little bit of, saying what somebody said at the time. That's a great little device. When you're writing your little moment, if you can quote what somebody said at the time, or maybe quote what went through your head, it gives it that nice storytelling feel. A woman next to him joked, a Chinese girl who can't use chopsticks. So just recreates that moment. It's almost like we're sitting right there. And then she backs up and reflects and explains what that meant. My friends call me Banana Girl, yellow skin on the outside and white on the inside. At times, I think I'm not Asian anymore, such as during the fishball incident. So this is where she's reflecting about what it meant. She's looking back on that moment. A while ago, my mother sagely predicted that it wouldn't be long before hamburgers and pizza would be a big part of my diet. They already represent 2 of my 4 daily food groups. No problem for me, I said. I was okay with that. Nothing wrong with being Americanized, I thought. What people don't understand is that, although I am well adapted to America's culture, I still greatly respect Chinese traditions. Now she goes into why she loves her Chinese heritage. So that's what she learned when she reflected back on that moment. So it's a great sample essay. see, for you to read. And then let me just interrupt myself. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Anybody have any ideas or moments you're wondering, would that make a good essay? This is your time. If you want to get, a little feedback, there's no dumb ideas, Well, you think about it, and at the end, we'll ask for questions again. So topic B, same drill. It asks, some students have an identity, an interest, or talent that defines them in an essential way. If you're one of these students, then tell us about yourself. First thing, pick one of these. You don't write about all of them. Do you want to write about something about your identity? And that could be cultural, an interest, or a talent. So say you pick a talent. Pick one of your talents. I'm really good at the clarinet. How do you write about that? Any ideas? Think about a time that there was some kind of problem related to that talent. Maybe you were giving a performance and your reed broke and you start squawking. That's a problem. You could start your essay with that moment. And then you go back and you kind of explain how you first got into clarinet and why you like it. And then talk about how you dealt with that moment where it went sideways on you. And talk about how you recovered. And then you can go on and talk about, what you learned about yourself in not just playing clarinet, but maybe just in performing in general, how you recover, and then you could also probably think of other ways where you use the same, strategies in other parts of your life when things go sideways. It's just, again, I can't tell you how many students, and it's very natural when they see a prompt like that, say they write about an interest. I want to write about my interest in riding horses. And how do they write it? Well, I first started riding horse, on my dad's ranch, and I really liked it. And I took care of that horse and I learned how I'm an animal lover. It's all good and true, but to read it, it's really dull. It's just too general and just too much explaining and telling. What if that student started about the time that she got on her horse and it ran straight for the fence and bucked her off? Which is way more interesting. And then she can go in and still tell us about how she first got interested in horses and why she's an animal lover, but she just will have a lot more to say. What did she learn from that time she got bucked off? Maybe did she get back on? Maybe she never got back on a horse. That could be an interesting essay. How'd she deal with that problem? And then the really good, juicy stuff. What did she learn about herself from that process? Yeah, that wasn't very fun. I broke my arm, but looking back, this is what I learned.
Janine, can I ask you really quickly?
Yeah.
And so students, the students that are watching us right now, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I'm going to share a question that some other students have posed to me that I think may represent where a lot of our students are. And so, Janine, recently I was visiting a campus and I was talking with some students, and what they told me was that they felt confident that they had a good anecdote that included a problem. And they also told me that they felt confident, relaying that anecdote, that story that had a problem in it, and then the backstory. The students, what they told me that they were struggling with is the reflective portion. Like, what did they learn? How did it shape them? The students, they were telling me they were getting stuck there. Many of the students that I visited with recently at a different campus, it wasn't LaSalle, it was a different campus, they had an essay that was actually mostly the anecdote, but they were really struggling with What did I learn? How did I solve the problem? In fact, when I spoke with a couple of students and I would say, well, how did you solve the problem? And they would say, well, I just did. And they were having trouble putting it into words. I know, Janine, I think you have a handout that has some prompting type stems, sentence stems that might help some students if they're getting stuck there.
I do. And can you guys just raise your hand if you struggle with this at all? If you've had this, can you raise your hand if you've struggled with trying to get that meaning and depth at all? And is that a challenge? Yeah. Okay, that helps me so much to know. So I sort of shared some ideas already, but there is a handout. It's handout 11, and it says add depth. It's not very long. If you're stuck, I would just read this. It talks about how to explain what you learned. So you had a problem. Now, how did you recover from it, right? It's a challenge, an obstacle, a fear, flaw, crisis. 1, share how you felt. That's something at the time, at your low point. And then talk about, see if you can say 3 steps that you took to deal with it. First, maybe I had to get my head together and calm myself down, Second, I called my dad and he told me this and that. Maybe somebody inspired you somehow. Maybe you thought about something else that had happened that, talk about what you leaned on. Share what you leaned on to deal with that problem. Try to find 3 things, the steps that you took. After you say what you actually did to try to deal with the problem, and remember these problems, you don't have to solve them. They can still be going on. All you need to share is just sort of how you've coped with it, how you've handled it, how you've dealt with it in your head too. You might have taken some steps, like I called the police, or I, got a new car, I, stopped riding horses. But you also have to share how you thought about it while you were dealing with it. Share what went through your head and how you thought about it. First, I thought that this was going to be impossible. But then I remembered one of my favorite quotes and share that, So share your thought process. First I did this, then I remembered this, and I went on to do something else. Finally, this happened, and explain it. It's usually best when you're talking about the steps that you took to handle the problem to just to go back from the beginning and step through and just kind of stick with chronological order just to make it make sense. Okay, so after you've said, had the problem, it happened, I felt this way, I took these steps to deal with it, this is how I thought about it, this is my strategy, I got a plan, this is what I was going to do. Then you need to step back and reflect. Step back. What did I learn? That's where you pull back, and you could even write this in your essay to have that deeper reflection. Looking back, literally you can write, looking back, comma, looking back at when I fell off that horse. And then go into what you've learned. Talk about the good and the bad. Look about, what did you learn about yourself? Was there a core quality that you used to deal with that? Looking back, I see that I actually used my great sense of empathy, or what quality did you use in dealing with the problem? And then also talk about, even though that was a bad thing, what's the good that came out of it? That's something to write about. Even though I broke my arm, I realize now that I'm really not into horses like I thought I was. Something like that. What do you, when you look back, now what do you see? Clear, more, Also, did it change you? Did it change how you thought about something in any way? You could say, before this happened, I always thought I loved horses. After this happened, I realized, I actually like caring for the horses more than riding them. It's this idea that it's not like you had to have this huge change. I was a nice guy and now I'm not a nice guy, or I was happy and now I'm miserable. It doesn't have to be this crazy change, just a little something that you think differently a little bit now. Maybe it opened your thinking to something. Maybe it sparked a dream for you. Maybe it inspired you to go do something else. What did you learn about others? What did you learn about the world or life in general? And that's where you can get more broad and more of a bigger life lesson. The bigger life lesson, if maybe when you fell off that horse, you learned that, the little one, that you actually really like working with them and training them, but you really don't like riding them. Maybe that's the little lesson. What's the bigger lesson? Maybe the bigger lesson is sometimes in life, what you think you like isn't or what you're supposed to like isn't what you really like. Some sort of broad life lesson like that. A lot of they're called universal truths. These lessons that they are true for everybody. You'll find these when you start reflecting on whatever you learned. There's the specific thing you learned about yourself, and then oftentimes there's a bigger lesson. And there a lot of times those are kind of those cliches like no pain, no gain. Sometimes in life, if you don't fail, you're not going to learn anything. Or sometimes in life, you don't always get what you want. That's a universal truth. So look for the universal truth and share that. If you want to then go even deeper, one step deeper, so you talk about what you learned. Now think about, why does what you learned matter? So you learned something about yourself. You learned that you have this quality that you use maybe in dealing with your problems. I learned that I'm actually a very logical thinker. Maybe that's the quality that you see that came out when you dealt with the problem. Now share, why does it matter that you're a logical thinker? Why does that have value? How can that help you? How has that helped you? Look in other parts of your life where maybe you've used your logic to help get through something. And that's another way you could add more to your essay. If you're a logical thinker, you could say, I actually see that I used that when I went to Model UN, and give an example. Or I see that when I was in chemistry lab. I was the one that used this step-by-step logic to help my team put together a project. Look for other parts. You can use it with your family. You're logical. You could use it in my job when I was flipping pancakes. I'm the one, I used my logic somehow. So what you're doing is you're making a point about yourself, right? And you're showing how you develop that quality. And then this is a way to then broaden it and reinforce the case you're making about yourself. I'm a logical thinker, by giving other examples. I'm trying to think of other ways that you can, I have a short video that, you want me to play the short video, Angela, on
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So students, if you're getting stuck, I know Janine referenced handout 11, referenced step 7 in the course. We're getting close to the end of our time, so why don't we close with the little video that will help the students with that part of the essay, and then we'll close this session.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want you to remember, even if you can't, I know it's all those passwords and numbers. Who do you go to? Your facilitator, Angela? Yes. Just ask to get the information. This is for you. You are so lucky you have this. and go and just mess around with it and see if you find some helpful stuff. So here's step 7. Some of it you've heard already, but it's really short, so I'm going to play it here. Finally, you have an anecdote counted out. Congratulations. That's one of the hardest parts of crafting a killer essay. But next comes the most important, explaining what it all means. You will start your rough draft with this anecdote, which will take the first paragraph or two. And then it's time to start to let the reader know why it mattered. You showed them something about yourself with your anecdote. Now you will tell them what it means to you, to others, and to the world. Remember that your anecdote involves some type of problem. Now you will see why this is important to your essay. After sharing the problem in your anecdote, you are poised to share how it made you feel, and then what you did to address the problem, and finally what you learned in the process. This will make up the bulk of your essay. You told your reader about some problem that happened a while back, and now you need to give the story some context or background. This is your chance to go back in time to when it all started and explain the key events that led up to that incident or moment in your anecdote. You can use lines like, "It all started," or "the first time," or "back in junior high," or "when I first began." Here's an example of a backstory. You start with your anecdote about a problem, and then you go back in time and give key details to explain what led up to it. It's really just a brief summary. The idea is to provide just enough background so your anecdote makes sense. Once you go back in time, stick to chronological order for the rest of your essay. This will give it a loose structure. Chances are, if you describe some type of problem in your anecdote, it was a time that you were not very happy. In fact, it could have been a low point. If this is true, look for a way to share how you felt with your reader. It could be right after the anecdote, and you could even quote yourself to reveal how you felt, or you can explain how you felt after the backstory. By sharing how you felt at a low point, you are not whining or trying to get people to feel sorry for you. Instead, you are showing that you have the maturity to be vulnerable. This is so powerful. You connect with your readers because we have all been there. It's a common experience. At some point, you address the problem you described in your anecdote. Tell us what you did. First, you did one thing, and then you did another, and so on. Remember, you don't need to have totally solved the problem. Just share what you did to manage it as best you could. Include what inspired you to confront it or help you deal. Share your thought process too. You will tell the reader the steps you took to handle your problem, but make sure to share how you thought about it. Colleges love to see how you think and analyze things. The essay is your chance to let them peek into your heart and brain. So you had a problem and you dealt with it. Now you're ready to launch into the most important part of your essay, explaining what you learned in the process. Usually when you handle or address a problem, you had to change something about yourself. And commonly, it's how you think about something. This is a rich source of essay fodder to flesh out your ideas and reveal how you think and reason. Above all, you will explore what you care about, what you value, and why. When you reveal your inner thoughts and feelings, you allow the reader to empathize with you, to stand in your shoes. You start to appeal real and human to the reader as well. They get you. Showing self-doubt, vulnerability, and authenticity takes courage. You not only forge a deeper connection, you demonstrate the maturity to be introspective and open. This is your chance to really take a hard look at what happened and reflect on what you learned. Share your thoughts in the essay. You don't need to try to be deep or appear super smart. Just be genuine and include your ideas and thoughts. You can even share questions that it raised for you. You don't need to have figured everything out to analyze what happened. In the process of grappling with your problem and examining what you learned along the way, you most likely tapped into a larger life lesson. It's almost like the moral of the story, something you learn that applies to almost all of us. Sometimes this is called a universal truth. You don't necessarily need to state this outright in your essay, but it's something you might want to mention in a subtle way or keep in the back of your mind as you write. You should now have an idea how your essay will unfold using the show and tell approach. You will start your essay and then go into background, the incident or moment. Share how it made you feel and then continue with how you dealt with it and what you learned. To help you see this structure,
Complete handout 9 and identify when writers of the sample essays were either showing or telling. Finally, give yourself a half hour or hour to take a stab at pounding out your own rough draft. Don't worry about the conclusion. We'll talk about that in the next presentation. Refer back to handout 5 for guidance as a sample outline. You are almost there.
Okay. All right. Do you have 2 minutes? I can just talk about prompt C, or does everybody need to go, or where are you at?
We can go ahead and talk about it just really super quickly. I'd like to at least touch on it. If anyone needs to exit the meeting, we certainly understand. But if you can stick around for another minute or two, we'll touch on topic C, and that way the kids have everything they need to keep working.
Right. Okay, really quickly, I love topic C. It's creative. You've got a ticket in your hand. Where will you go? What will you do? What will happen when you get there? Because the question is kind of out of the box. They want you to write something imaginative and push it a little bit. So you've got a ticket in your hand. You could be up in a hot air balloon. You could be riding a bullet train. You could be doing time travel. You could be going back in history. You could be going to a country where your family's from. You pick where you want to go. But notice they say, what will happen when you get there? So how do you put that in there? Something that happens. Anybody remember? A problem. If you have a problem, something happened. So no matter where you decide to go on your fun trip, think of something that goes wrong and write about that. And then you'll answer this part, what will happen when you get there? Why do they want you to say something that happened? Because you have to include some kind of problem, and problems are so great because you get to say what happened. It's interesting, kind of exciting, and then you get to say how you dealt with it and how you thought about it, how you felt, and what you learned. So same MO, okay? Works, even though this is more creative, and please go there. Think of, and this is also, if you want to link it, if you know you want to be an engineer, you know you want to study biology, say you're pre-med, you want to study biology. Maybe you go to some garden in Paris, and then you can have it relate. It doesn't hurt to relate somehow to what your interest is. You don't have to do this. Most students really have no clue what they want to do in college. Colleges do like it if you do know. So if you do have an idea and you want to link any of these essays to your intended field of study, go for that. So I just wanted to say that when you get to this topic, think of some fun place you want to go, but make sure you throw some obstacles in the way. Have something bad happen. Have that hot air balloon lose power and start to go down, right? Or just have a problem, and then you can say it's something that happened, or have the problem when you get there. So you arrive at that garden and have something happen. All the plants are dead, Now what do you do? How'd you deal with that? That's how you're going to inject interesting stuff in what you learn and how you think, and make it a really effective essay. There's 2 other things Angela always wants me to talk about. If you say you do something, write about something connected with your culture, whether it's A, B, or C, I think it's wonderful to include Spanish language, some words from the Spanish language. It really gives it a rich flavor, but make sure to interpret the word. If you use a word in Spanish, go ahead and use the Spanish word, but just say, which means blah, 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 so that non-Spanish speakers know what you're talking about. Also, if in any of these, if you're going to be a first generation in your family to go to college, it doesn't hurt to work that in, to mention that. A good place to mention that would be probably toward the end, where you're extending out how you think you're going to use whatever you learned in your future. You can maybe work it in, And as the first person in my family to go to college, colleges want you, and they are looking, they love that. So I don't think there's any other place to indicate that on applications. So if you can work it in weave it in a natural way. And the idea of weaving in some Spanish language, it's an amazing asset to be bilingual. Why not show that off in a natural way? So I don't know, I just wanted to tell you about topic C, that idea of looking for problems works for all three of these.
Okay. It sounds good. So students, I hope you have plenty of ammunition now to take another pass with your essays and to keep the momentum going. We wish you good luck. We want to hear some of your stories in the spring when you start getting your acceptance letters from the colleges of your dreams. We'd like to hear what happens next with you. So we're going to go ahead and close this Cybermentoring session. We will be back with Janine again at 1 and again at 2:30 this afternoon. So teachers, if you have any classes that can join us at that time, we'd love to see you again. And so thanks, students, teachers, and once again, the best of luck to all of you.
Yep, best of luck, good luck, and just trust your stories. They make great essays.
Okay, so
thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.